I'm Jocelyn, 32, and I thought Mom's birthday party at an Orlando resort would be a night to remember. I spent weeks planning picking out a stunning dress to make her proud. But my brother had other plans. Halfway through the toasts, he accidentally flung his glass of red wine all over me. The room went quiet. Then he smirked and said loud enough for everyone to hear, "Oh, sorry, I ruined your $5 dress." Laughter erupted. Mom, Dad, the guests, everyone but me. My cheeks burned as the wine soaked through, but their chuckles stung worse. I stood there dripping humiliated while they acted like it was just a joke. It wasn't. It was a deliberate jab, a reminder they've always seen me as less. I forced a smile, excused myself, and wiped the wine off in the bathroom, but my mind was racing. That night, I made a decision. I wasn't going to cry or yell, I was going to act. By 8:30 the next morning, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. They were desperate, calling nonstop, but I had already typed cancel and hit send. When they begged for answers, I just said, "Sorry, the $5 dress is ruined and it can't be fixed." If this happened to you, would you stay silent or fight back? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear what you'd do. Let me take you back to that moment. I stood by the dessert table, the chatter of guests filling the air, their clinking glasses a reminder of the celebration I'd poured my heart into. I'd spent weeks planning Mom's birthday, coordinating every detail to make it perfect. But my brother had other plans. He strutted through the crowd, his voice loud, his grin smug, boasting about his latest real estate venture, a multi-million-dollar condo project he swore would put him on the map. "This deal's a game changer," he bragged to a group of Dad's old colleagues, holding court like he was some Wall Street hotshot. "I've got investors eating out of my hand." Mom and Dad hung on his every word, nodding like he was their golden boy. They always did. Ever since we were kids, they'd propped him up, bailing him out of one bad deal after another, while my own achievements building my marketing business from scratch barely got a glance. Tonight was no different. Mom leaned over, her smile wide, and said, "Your brother's going places, isn't he?" I forced a nod, my stomach twisting. Dad chimed in. "He's got big plans. Always has." Not once did they acknowledge the effort I'd put into this night. Not once did they notice me standing there, still shaken from earlier. I watched my brother Jared, I'd call him that now. No more big brother nonsense, work the room, his ego inflating with every laugh he got. He caught my eye, smirked, and raised his glass as if toasting his own greatness. That smirk burned into me, a reminder of how he'd always belittled me, always made me feel small. I remembered the times he'd dismissed my work, calling it cute or just advertising. Mom and Dad never corrected him. They'd laugh along like it was all in good fun. It wasn't. It never was. I stepped away from the table, my hands clenched. I wasn't going to let this slide. Not this time. Jared thought he could humiliate me in front of everyone and walk away unscathed. He was wrong. I'd spent years building connections in my career, earning respect he'd never understand. I knew things about his so-called game-changing deal, things he'd carelessly let slip when he asked for my help with his pitch last month. He'd handed me the keys to his kingdom without even realizing it. I slipped my phone out of my purse, my fingers steady despite the anger simmering inside. I texted Todd, my friend who always had my back. He'd know how to make this right. Jared's project relied on one major investor, and I'd been the one to polish his proposal to make him look competent. That gave me access I could use. I wasn't just going to cry or complain. I was going to hit Jared where it hurt most, his precious deal. He'd learn what it felt like to lose something that mattered. As the party hummed on, I stood in the shadows watching Jared laugh with a guest oblivious to the storm coming his way. I wasn't the little sister he could push around anymore. I'd make sure he and Mom and Dad understood that respect wasn't optional. It was earned, and I was done letting them walk all over me. Back at the party, I forced a smile, but old wounds resurfaced. The chatter of guests faded as memories flooded in each one, a sharp reminder of how my family had always pushed me to the sidelines. Years ago, when I landed my first big marketing client, Jared scoffed, "What, you're selling ads for some startup? That's cute." I was 25, beaming with pride, but Mom and Dad just nodded at him, ignoring my milestone. At family dinners, Jared's half-baked business ideas always stole the spotlight. "He's got vision," Dad would say, while my campaigns, which brought in real money, got a pat on the head at best. Once, when I won an industry award, Mom glanced at the plaque and said, "That's nice, dear," before asking Jared about his latest pitch. The pattern never changed. Jared's failures were celebrated, my successes invisible. Those moments stung, but they also taught me something. Jared wasn't smarter or better, he was just louder. And Mom and Dad enabled him, always ready to bail him out, always quick to dismiss me. The realization hit hard. This wasn't just about tonight. It was years of being treated like I didn't matter. I wasn't going to let Jared's smugness slide anymore. He thought he could belittle me in front of everyone. I'd show him what I was capable of. I slipped away from the crowd, my phone in hand, and texted Todd, my friend who'd always seen through Jared's bravado. He knew my family's history, how they'd brushed me off while propping Jared up. "Need your help," I typed. "It's time to hit Jared where it hurts." Todd's reply came fast. "Say the word." "I'm in." I paced near the resort's lobby, my mind racing. Jared's big real estate deal, the one he wouldn't shut up about, was his lifeline. And I had a way in. Last month, Jared had begged me to help with his investor pitch. "You're good with words," he'd said, tossing me access to his email account to polish his proposal. I'd spent hours crafting messages, making him sound professional while he took all the credit. Typical. But he'd made a mistake. He never changed the password. I still had access to that email account, the one tied to his investor, a big-shot developer who trusted my work. That account was my leverage, a key to unraveling Jared's world. I called Todd, keeping my voice low. "He's got this condo deal," I said. "I can get into the email he uses for the investor. If we move fast, I can make it collapse." Todd didn't hesitate. "You sure about this?" he asked. Not because he doubted me, but because he knew this was big. "I'm sure," I said. "He's gone too far." Todd walked me through the tech side, how to send a message that looked legit, how to cover my tracks. "Use the shared account," he said. "Make it vague, but damaging. They'll think it's Jared's fault." I sat on a bench outside, staring at my phone. The plan was simple: draft an email to the investor, something about concerns over financial transparency, and hit send. It would tank Jared's deal without leaving a trace back to me. I thought about Mom and Dad, how they'd react when Jared's vision fell apart. Would they finally see him for what he was, or would they blame me like always? Either way, I didn't care. This wasn't about their approval anymore. It was about respect, something Jared never gave me. I typed a quick note to Todd confirming the plan. My fingers hovered over the screen, steady and sure. Jared had pushed me too far, and now he'd pay. I wasn't the overlooked sister anymore. I was ready to take control. That night in my hotel room, my laptop screen lit up my resolve. The party's noise still echoed in my head, but I was done feeling small. I opened my laptop, my fingers steady as I logged into the shared email account Jared used for his big-shot investor. He'd given me access weeks ago, too lazy to handle his own correspondence, and never bothered to lock me out. The inbox loaded, and there it was, his entire deal laid bare in threads of emails I'd polished for him. I scrolled through, my heart racing, knowing one message could bring it all crashing down. I started typing. "Dear Mr. Larson," I wrote, addressing the investor directly. "Due to concerns over financial transparency, we regret to inform you that the condo project cannot proceed." The words felt sharp, precise, like a blade. I kept it vague, professional, just damaging enough to make the investor pull out. Jared's name was all over the account, his signature, his sloppy replies. No one would suspect me. I read it over, my pulse quickening. This wasn't just about his deal. It was about making him feel the weight of his actions. I called Todd to double-check. "You sure it's clean?" I asked, keeping my voice low. He was at his desk, probably surrounded by monitors, his calm focus grounding me. "It's airtight," he said. "The email's tied to Jared's account. I've checked the server logs, nothing points to you. Send it and it's done." I trusted Todd. He'd always had my back, unlike Mom or Dad, who'd never once stood up for me. "Thanks," I said. "I owe you." He chuckled. "Just make sure Jared learns his lesson." Before hitting send, I paused, picturing the fallout. Jared would wake up to a disaster, his precious deal gone, his reputation bruised. He'd scramble, maybe scream at his team, but the investor would be long gone. Mom and Dad would be frantic, their savings tied up in Jared's project. They'd trusted him, poured their money into his so-called vision, and now they'd face the consequences of betting on the wrong kid. Would they blame Jared? Or would they turn on each other like they always did when things went wrong? I didn't know. And honestly, I didn't care. This was about Jared, about making him feel what it's like to lose something that matters. I leaned back, staring at the email. Part of me wondered if I was going too far. Jared was arrogant, sure, but he was still family. I could delete it. Walk away. Let the night's humiliation fade. But then I remembered his smirk, the way Mom and Dad laughed along, how they'd dismissed me my whole life. No. Jared needed to learn that respect wasn't optional. I wasn't the pushover sister anymore. I clicked send, and the email vanished into the ether, unstoppable. I closed my laptop, my hands trembling slightly, not from fear, but from adrenaline. Todd texted, "It's done." I replied, "Yeah, it's done." I could almost see Jared's face tomorrow, the panic setting in when he realized his deal was dead. Mom and Dad would be calling, confused, maybe angry, but I'd be ready. I'd play innocent, let them tear themselves apart trying to figure it out. For the first time in years, I felt in control, like I was finally calling the shots. I slipped into bed, the hotel sheets cool against my skin. Sleep came easily, a rare calm washing over me. I'd done it. Jared's world was about to unravel, and I'd be there to watch it fall. Tomorrow, the real show would begin. By 8:30 the next morning, my phone buzzed with Jared's frantic calls. I let it vibrate, watching his name flash on the screen. 5 missed calls, then 6. A voicemail popped up, his voice sharp and panicked. "Jocelyn, what the hell happened?" The investor pulled out, "Call me back." I smirked, sipping my coffee, and ignored it. He called again, but I sent it to voicemail. When I finally picked up on his 7th try, I kept my tone light, innocent. "What's wrong, Jared? You sound stressed." He was practically shouting. "The deal's dead. Did you talk to anyone? Did you see anything?" I paused, letting him squirm. "No idea what you're talking about." I said, my voice smooth as silk. "Maybe check with your team." He cursed and hung up, his desperation practically crackling through the line. An hour later, Mom called. Her voice trembled, not with anger, but with worry. "Jocelyn, something's gone wrong with your brother's project. The investor sent an email about transparency issues. We put our savings into this." I could hear Dad in the background, his tone gruff. He must have screwed up the numbers again. I leaned back in my hotel chair, feigning concern. "That's awful, Mom. Did Jared say what happened?" She sighed. "He swears he didn't do anything, but the investor's furious. We're trying to figure it out." I murmured sympathies, all while picturing Jared's face, red, flustered, unraveling. By noon, Dad called, his voice clipped. "Your brother's saying we didn't trust him enough, that we pushed him too hard." "Did you hear anything about this deal?" I kept my answers vague. "Nothing, Dad. You know Jared handles his own business." I could tell he didn't buy it, but he didn't push. Instead, I heard him mutter, "He's always been reckless," before the line went quiet. I smiled, knowing the cracks were starting to show. Later that afternoon, my phone pinged with a text from Mom. "We're all talking now. It's a mess." I didn't reply, but I could imagine the scene at their house, A shouting match, accusations flying. Jared would be pacing, yelling about how he'd done everything right, how the investor was wrong. Mom would be wringing her hands, trying to calm things down, while Dad would point fingers blaming Jared for botching the deal. I'd heard their fights before, but this time I wasn't caught in the middle. I was the one pulling the strings. I checked my email, half expecting Jared to send some desperate plea. Instead, I found a forwarded message from Mom, the investor's response to Jared's follow-up. "We cannot proceed due to concerns raised in your communication," it read. I grinned. My email had hit its mark perfectly. Jared was scrambling, and Mom and Dad were starting to turn on him. Their savings tied up in his project were now at risk, and they had no one to blame but their golden boy. As evening fell, Jared texted me, "We need to talk. This isn't adding up." I ignored it, letting him stew. Another call from Mom came through, her voice tight. "Your brother thinks someone sabotaged him. He's losing it." I played dumb again. Sabotaged. That's crazy, Mom. Who'd do that? She didn't answer, but I could hear Dad in the background louder now, saying, if he'd been honest from the start, we wouldn't be in this mess. The tension was palpable, and I savored every second of it. I sat on my hotel balcony, the Orlando skyline stretching out before me. For years, I'd been the one they overlooked, the one they dismissed while Jared got all the praise. Now their perfect family picture was shattering, and I hadn't even had to raise my voice. Jared's arrogance had set the stage, and my one email had lit the fuse. I didn't feel guilty, not one bit. They'd learn soon enough that underestimating me was a mistake. For now, I'd let them tear each other apart. The chaos was just beginning. 2 days later, Jared was scrambling to save his sinking ship. He'd spent hours on the phone, his voice hoarse from begging the investor, Mr. Larson, to reconsider. I heard from a mutual contact that Jared had driven to Larson's office in downtown Orlando, suit-wrinkled hair, a mess, pleading for a meeting. I can explain everything he'd said according to the contact, but Larson's assistant turned him away with a curt, "Mr. Larson's not interested. The decision is final." The email I'd sent had done its job. Larson wasn't just skeptical, he was done. Whispers about Jared's shady practices were already spreading through his network like wildfire through dry grass. I was at a cafe near the resort savoring a latte when Todd called. "You're not going to believe this," he said, his voice buzzing with excitement. "Larson didn't just pull out, he's been talking. He told 2 other developers about Jared's supposed transparency issues. Word's getting around fast." I leaned forward, a grin creeping across my face. "How bad is it?" I asked. Todd laughed. "Bad. Jared's name is starting to sound like poison in real estate circles. One guy even pulled out of a separate deal with him." I set my cup down, a rush of power surging through me. My one email hadn't just killed Jared's project, it was dismantling his reputation piece by piece. I hadn't expected the fallout to spread this far, this fast. When I'd crafted that email, I wanted Jared to lose his deal, to feel the sting of failure. But this was bigger. His so-called empire, built on bravado and Mom and Dad's money, was crumbling, and I'd barely lifted a finger. Every time I thought about it, I felt a jolt of satisfaction, like I'd finally flipped the script. For years, Jared had strutted around acting untouchable while I was the afterthought. Now he was the one scrambling, and I was calling the shots. I checked my phone, expecting more frantic messages from Jared or Mom, but my inbox was quiet. I'd made a point to stay silent, dodging their calls and texts since the chaos started. Jared had sent another message yesterday, something about figuring this out together, but I didn't reply. Mom had left a voicemail, her tone weary, asking me to check in, but I let it sit. Dad hadn't reached out since our last call, probably too busy arguing with Jared. I wasn't ready to face them yet. The longer I stayed out of it, the deeper they'd sink into their own mess, and the safer my secret would be. Todd texted me a screenshot from an industry forum where someone had posted about trouble with a local real estate guy. No names. But I knew it was Jared. "This is wild," Todd wrote. You okay with how far this is going? I stared at the message, my thumb hovering over the screen. Was I okay? Jared's world was falling apart. His deals, his name, his confidence. Part of me wanted to pull back, to call it even. But then I remembered how he'd made me feel small, insignificant, a joke. No, I was more than okay. I texted back, "Let it burn." Todd replied with a thumbs up emoji, and I knew he understood. I leaned back in my chair, the cafe's hum fading into the background. Jared's desperation was a kind of justice one I hadn't dared dream of. He'd spent years building himself up by pushing me down, but now the tables had turned. I wasn't just the sister he could mock anymore. I was the one who'd outsmarted him. And the best part? He had no idea. Neither did Mom or Dad. They were too busy pointing fingers at each other, at Jared, at anyone but me. I sipped my latte, picturing Jared pacing his apartment, dialing numbers that wouldn't pick up. He'd always thought he was the smarter one, the one destined for greatness. Now he was just a guy with a failing deal and a tarnished name. I felt no guilt, only a quiet thrill. My plan had worked better than I'd ever imagined, and I wasn't done yet. I'd keep my distance, let the storm rage on, and watch Jared's world unravel from the sidelines. The game wasn't over. By the 5th day, Jared's confidence had crumbled completely. His condo deal, once his ticket to millions, was gone, and his reputation in Orlando's real estate world was in tatters. Word had spread 2 more investors had ditched his side project, spooked by whispers of his shaky business practices. The man who'd once boasted about having the industry in his pocket was now a ghost. His calls unanswered, his pitches met with silence. I didn't need to see him to know he was falling apart. The news was everywhere. Jared texted me that morning, his message short and stripped of his usual bravado. "Meet me at the cafe on Eola Drive. Please." I agreed, not out of kindness, but to witness his downfall up close. At the cafe, a cozy spot tucked away from the resort's bustle, I found him in a corner booth. His shirt-wrinkled eyes bloodshot. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. "Jocelyn," he said, voice cracking, "I'm drowning here. Larson won't even talk to me. You're good with people. Can you reach out to him, clear this up?" His hands fidgeted, a far cry from the cocky brother I knew. I sipped my coffee, letting his plea linger. His eyes searched mine, desperate for a lifeline. I set my cup down, my voice cold as steel. "Sorry, the $5 dress is ruined and it can't be fixed." His face froze, the words hitting like a slap, tying back to that night he'd mocked me. "What's that supposed to mean?" he stammered. I leaned forward, unflinching. "It means you don't get to disrespect me for years and expect a favor now. You thought you could walk all over me, Jared. Not anymore." He opened his mouth, then closed it, his shoulders sagging. "I didn't mean it," he mumbled. "I'm sorry." I shook my head. "Too late. You made your choices. Deal with them." I stood, leaving him staring at the table, his apology as empty as his promises. He didn't follow me out, and I didn't look back. The moment I stepped into the sunlight, a weight lifted. For the first time, I'd faced Jared and held my ground. No apologies, no regrets. He wasn't the untouchable star anymore. I was the one in control. That evening, Dad called, his voice rough with frustration. "Jocelyn, what's going on with your brother's deal? We're out thousands and he's dodging us." I kept my tone even, practiced. "I don't know, Dad. Jared's always been careless, hasn't he? Maybe he overpromised again?" There was a heavy silence, and I could sense him grappling with doubt. "He says he did everything right," Dad said, almost to himself. "But this doesn't add up." I didn't bite, letting his words hang. "Sounds like you need to talk to him," I replied, deflecting smoothly. He grunted, unconvinced, and hung up. Mom hadn't reached out since her last message, probably caught up in the fallout at home. I could picture them, Jared defensive, Mom trying to mediate, Dad growing angrier by the minute. My silence was my weapon, letting their suspicions fester. They'd always put Jared first, but now his failures were tearing them apart, and I wasn't lifting a finger to stop it. Every dodged call, every vague answer deepened the cracks in their trust. They could wonder all they wanted, they'd never trace this back to me. Walking through downtown Orlando, the city's lights reflecting off Lake Eola, I felt a quiet power. Jared's plea had been a last-ditch effort, not a genuine olive branch. He didn't care about fixing things with me. He just wanted to save his own skin. And Dad's call only confirmed what I already knew. Their faith in Jared was eroding, and I'd set it all in motion. The family that had dismissed me for years was now crumbling under the weight of their own choices, and I was watching it unfold from the sidelines. 10 days after the party, I sat alone in my apartment, free from their drama. The storm I'd unleashed had done its work, and I was finally at peace. Jared's world had collapsed under the weight of his own arrogance. His condo project was dead buried under a pile of unpaid bills and broken promises. Industry insiders no longer mentioned his name with admiration. Instead, they whispered about his questionable ethics, a stain he couldn't scrub off. A contact in the real estate world told me he'd tried pitching a new development to a smaller firm only to be laughed out of the room. His empire built on bravado, and my parents' savings was nothing but rubble now. Mom and Dad were no better off. Their trust in Jared had evaporated, replaced by bitter arguments that echoed through their voicemails. Mom left me a message 2 days ago, her voice strained. "Jocelyn, we're struggling. Your brother let us down, and we don't know what to do." I didn't call back. Dad tried next, his tone sharp with frustration. "He's cost us everything. Why won't you talk to us?" I let that one go to voicemail too. Their savings poured into Jared's doomed venture were likely gone for good, and their fights had grown uglier. A mutual friend mentioned overhearing them at a restaurant bickering loudly about whose fault it was for backing Jared in the first place. The family that had always put him first was now fractured, their faith in each other shattered. I'd stopped answering their calls, their texts, their pleas. My phone buzzed daily with messages, Jared's apologies, Mom's tearful requests, Dad's demands for answers, but I ignored them all. I'd spent years being the invisible one, the one they brushed off while Jared basked in their praise. Now I was done playing their game. Cutting them off wasn't just about protecting my secret. It was about reclaiming my life. I didn't need their approval anymore, and I wasn't going to let their chaos pull me back in. Sitting on my couch, I thought about how it all started that night at the party when Jared's mockery cut deeper than I'd ever admitted. I could have let it slide like I always had, but I chose to fight back. One email, carefully worded, had unraveled his world and shown them all what happens when you underestimate someone. I didn't feel guilt, only a quiet satisfaction. Jared had learned the hard way that disrespect comes with a price, and Mom and Dad were learning that blind loyalty to him had consequences too. This wasn't just my story, it was a lesson for anyone watching. Respect isn't optional. It's the foundation of every relationship, whether it's family, friends, or colleagues. Ignore that, and you risk losing everything, just like Jared did. His career, his reputation, his family's trust, all gone because he thought he could belittle me and walk away unscathed. I'd shown him and anyone else who doubted me that I wasn't someone to mess with. Actions have consequences, and some mistakes can't be undone. I leaned back, the silence of my apartment wrapping around me like a shield. I'd walked away from their drama, and for the first time I felt truly free. Jared, Mom, Dad, they'd have to figure out their mess without me. I wasn't the overlooked sister anymore. I was the one who'd rewritten the story, and I was done looking back. Thanks for watching this story unfold. Subscribe and hit the bell for more drama like this.